3,
2,
1.
1.
Monkey bars.
Podcast.
1, 2, 3, go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Thick and Butter Podcast. My name is Alex,
My name is Jesse
aka Thick.
and Butter.
This is episode 101.
101.
Wow, crazy. 101. Because this is episode 101, this is going to be a full podcast of how to podcast. Podcasting 101.
What's your number one tip for podcasting? I have
Okay,
mine.
My number one tip for podcasting, since we've done 100 episodes at this point.
Yeah, we're
this is
definitely experts.
absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
I don't think it really hit me when we did the 100 episodes.
Yeah.
We really figured out 100 things, you know? It's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
So think about like 100 hamburgers. Like
That's a lot
on
of
a table.
hamburgers.
That's a lot.
That's a
You
lot.
know?
Can you imagine how many pounds of hamburgers 100 hamburgers would be? Like Big Macs?
How heavy is a Big Mac?
How heavy? Like,
It
I
can't
don't
be a
know.
pound.
No, like 1 pound per. Can you imagine like
Yeah.
a pound burger? There are like
I know
there
there
are
are
pound
those exist.
burgers. Yeah,
yeah.
but they're like a whole plate or something. They're well, actually probably not. They're just probably like really big.
Yeah, they're just
You know,
sick.
I don't know, like maybe like
They're
an
dumb.
ounce or so. I don't really know. I'll admit it. I don't really know my weights very well beyond like pounds, you know, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like I can't estimate ounces that well. Like I'm
Me
not that
neither.
good at that.
No.
Like,
Me
is
neither.
that bad? Will that be a
I don't think
deficit on
so.
my progression?
No. I mean, is that going to be a detriment on my life? Well, I have
Yeah.
to go. I don't think so. I think you'll be all right.
It's like a life or death question, Jesse. How many ounces is that car?
How many
I don't know.
ounces is that car?
I'll take death, sir. Just kill me now.
A lot.
Yeah. Well, how much does a car even weigh? I don't even know
A
that.
lot.
Like a
ca-
ton? Does a car weigh a
let's
ton?
like- a car weighs a lot.
Because there's a
let's
lot
just,
of
like,
metal in
look
there.
at my car. Okay. So
Okay.
that's like a basic sedan. Let's see. BMW Jetta. I'm actually curious about this.
By the way, this is like a live example of how to do a podcast. Like
Yeah,
you just absorb, like through osmosis, absorb the learning.
Oh yeah. I forgot my tip.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to the tips later. This is
Yeah,
more important.
Yeah. A Jetta. My Jetta. I want you to guess. So guess?
Okay. Well, this is a good test of how inept my abilities
Oh, yeah.
actually are. Okay. So I don't think it's a ton because I'm not
Well, how
actually
much
sure.
is a ton?
How much is a ton?
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna be something like really weird.
I know.
Do you know because you looked it up, or you just know
No,
off the top of your head?
know how much a
It's-
ton is.
Does everyone know that? I don't know what a ton is.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna guess is it like around it's like a couple thousand pounds or something like
Yeah,
that?
exactly. You're exactly right.
How much is it?
2,000 pounds. is a ton.
Exactly?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's simple. I was
So
expecting
that's a
like
ton. So how much do you think a
If it's-
Volkswagen, my car, the Volkswagen Jetta weighs?
okay, so if we weigh 100 pounds as people, like a big
What?
person, like Jared, like if Jared weighs like 200 pounds,
You think Jared weighs 100 pounds?
no, like that's a very small.
I'm
person.
140 pounds.
Yeah, but so it's
Me.
okay. We'll say like
Jared
200.
is like so much bigger than man.
Okay, so how many Jareds would be equivalent
Jared
to
is our
your
friend, by
car?
the way. If you guys
Jared,
don't know.
it's at least 4, maybe probably definitely 6, probably 8, and probably
What are you talking about?
8 Jareds. Your car would be more
Oh,
than
okay,
8 Jareds.
okay.
So like probably like 10 Jareds. So that's like 20,000. Wait, is that right?
20,000.
20,000 pounds. That's not right. 200 times 10, 2,000. Yeah. So, okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to like throw on another
So a
1,000. I'm going
ton.
to say like 3,000 pounds, a ton and 1,000 pounds.
Okay, you're pretty close, man.
How much is it?
So I mean, you pretty much got it right. It's like this is saying 2,895 to 2,965. So you're
Hey,
basically, yeah, it's around 3,000 pounds.
around 8
Around that.
Jareds, around
Yeah.
10 Jareds.
Yeah, exactly right.
That was some pretty creative thinking. I got to give myself
That
credit
is
for that.
creative. That's one way to do it.
It's not stupid if it works.
Hey, yeah. Yeah.
Actually, that's my advice for podcasting. It's not stupid if it works.
That my advice for podcasting is I think you should just get a microphone and just speak your mind.
Yeah.
Just say whatever, any stupid idea, any thought, just say it because you don't know. Put it out in the ether. You don't know if it's gonna be a good idea, a bad idea. You don't know until
Yeah,
people,
that's a great point.
Reciprocate it or say that's a retarded idea.
And
sometimes
and sometimes
a great idea.
Even when you don't get feedback, when you voice it yourself, and either when you like after saying it, you grow as a person, and you realize.
Last night, I was I don't know what I was on. I was fueled by something. And I was like, I'm gonna call Jesse and speak my mind. So
Oh yeah.
FaceTime Jesse last night. And I don't even remember what I said. It was just a bunch of ideas I had about the music industry.
Yeah, we had a great conversation talking about posers and talking about how dumb they are.
But after I don't know what I said. Some of the things I said I probably won't believe in like a week. But
Yeah.
You just gotta put those ideas out there and see what people grab onto. Is this a dumb thing what I'm saying right now? Or is there something to what I'm saying right now? That's why you need good friends that will call you out and say that's dumb.
Absolutely. I like that about
be around yes men.
Yeah, because it's really toxic because the way that like your brain will hold on and like distort information can just like destroy yourself. Like it just like it can change you into like a horrible person. Honestly, just because you have like these ideas that
you're great. You think everything is like you start to think like, and I've experienced this in my life for sure, where you think that everything that you think is right. Everything that I say is correct.
I feel like a lot of times when I was younger, where it was like more developmentally appropriate to do this, because when you're young, you think like this, but for me, it was a big change to realize that like when I had a problem with something, even if it was the other person's fault, I should be making the change because I can only like control my actions, because it's like way easier. Like if you have a problem with someone to say like, well, you're not cooperating, right? Like you're not doing shit correctly and it's affecting me. And it's just like, well, even if they're not, like, it's not your business. You can't do anything about that. It's just like, move on, do something different. It's better. Talk to your friend, vent about it. Say this person's such a bitch, and then do like, do the thing.
Yeah, exactly. So podcasting 101, that's step one.
Yeah, step one.
Get a microphone, just start talking shit.
Honestly, like the other thing about like doing a podcast, I think, is the initial fear of thinking of like, is it worth it to do it? It's like you don't get to know if your idea is going to work. We don't really know if this idea is ever going to like get like monetary benefits, but it's worth it just to like speak your mind and do it, because it's just a valuable thing for you as an individual. So if you have like a want to do it, you should in any way possible.
But I also like, I think one of my favorite things about it is that the fact that I think what I love about film too, and like the idea of like pictures and videos and stuff, like keeping memories alive, and like a podcast is such a great way, like an unedited podcast, and me and one of my best friends talking for hours, in different stages of our lives.
Yeah.
is an amazing thing to have.
Yeah.
Whether or not people want to listen to it, awesome if you are listening to this. But for me personally, I know that I'm going to love that I have this
Yeah,
over the
like
course of my good owner.
it's especially if we keep doing this until we are like full-fledged adults, like in our
55.
40s or 50s or something.
I
Because
love that.
like then like
We have
imagine
kids.
when we die, we
Welcome
could
to
our
episode 865.
but like when we die, we could show our like our
Right.
kids could show our grandkids. It's
Oh my
like this
God.
was your granddad.
Yeah.
Isn't that
But this is
cool?
what he thought. This is his opinions. This is, you know what I mean? You'll be
This
like,
is
this is all.
this is
You know, the kids come and bite us in the ass.
I know,
Because
yeah.
things change. And we said our opinions on things about this on this podcast.
This is your granddad when he was
controversial, but
yeah.
maybe in 20 years, saying the Green Knight was great might be
Kind of rough.
racist.
Listen. Your grandfather was 84 and senile when he gave Happy Feet that like 10 out of 10 review. You can't take that seriously. It was his downward spiral from them. Like it was a rough patch. Don't ignore it. Skip episode 984. Just skip it.
Well, or example, like we talked about Kage in the last podcast, like Kage turns out to be a complete rapist.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
Bill Cosby.
right.
And then,
oh my God.
What if we, dude?
What if we were like the Weinstein and Cosby podcast, where we just like obsess over like Weinstein and Cosby material, like for the first 100, like up until like their scandals, and we're like, we're gonna have to completely reinvent ourselves.
Everything.
Yeah, I mean, like it's crazy too.
I mean, there were definitely built. That's crazy to think about. There were definitely. I mean, Bill Cosby he was huge, man.
Yeah,
he's America's dad. There are probably people in the world that had Bill Cosby posters, and every Cosby show DVD would watch it every morning.
Was that ever in your life, Bill Cosby?
Cosby show,
like.
Or just Bill Cosby in general?
Like his influence was affected my life, but him specifically
like,
was never really a part of my life.
He had an animated show called Lil Bill that I used to watch when I was younger. And then I used to watch
I heard about that.
Albert, you know,
yeah, I've heard about that.
That
yeah,
was my only, but I didn't really. No, I wouldn't say that Bill Cosby is really. He's part of my parents' lives,
right?
Absolutely, but not necessarily my life. It was past our time.
Yeah.
He was still relevant when we were kids, but you know, because he had all those kid shows that were still on the air, you know.
Yeah, that's a weird thing, man. That's a weird thing. I mean, the best recommendation here's podcasting tip number 2. Don't rape people. It will make your art form last. Don't rape people. Don't do it.
Rape? Oh. I thought you said rape.
Yeah. Well, we don't rape people either, but more importantly, don't rape people. That's
that's a good tip.
Yeah. Tip number 2. Maybe that should just be like all round tip number 1 for everything. Like, don't rape.
Yeah.
Question mark.
Just don't do it.
Should this even be said? Question mark.
Yeah.
Does that have to be stated?
It's funny to think about. We always talk about that, or it's like, yeah, I wonder. Our kids are gonna be like, look at Granddad and how insane. Look at all his wacky opinions on movies.
Yeah. You know what I was also thinking about, what's kind of cool about our time, is that we are at like, I mean, you could say that about any present point in history. So maybe this is kind of moot, but I just feel like if we look back at history in terms of what storytelling could do and like with music and stuff, we are at such a crazy point in time. like such a crazy point in like innovation, like what
Oh
we can do
god.
with technology.
I
We
mean,
talk
dude,
about like this every once in a while, but it still just like blows my mind to think about
to
sometimes.
me, like it's blowing my mind, but it's also incredibly scary. Just
Yeah.
because like
Yeah.
the thing that the how rapid things are moving, and like as years go by, we're getting more and more technically advanced, like quicker. If that makes any
Yeah.
sense. Like
Yeah.
it's starting to like, bro. There was a billionaire like a month ago who shot himself into space. You know,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
like dude.
Yeah,
As much as I
that's
have
scary.
opinions about that,
Yeah.
so fucking cool shit. You know, just
Yeah.
the idea that like we're getting closer to something like that.
I
But
know
but
it's crazy to think about that. It's like it was Amazon guy, right? Like it was definitely, it was
like two of
Bezos.
them did it. So it was Bezos and then
Oh,
the
I didn't.
Virgin Airlines guy did it. Richard
Oh.
Branson. He's the first one to do
Oh.
it.
Okay. Yeah.
Branson did it, and then like 2 weeks later, Bezos did it.
Yeah. It's like,
Bezos looked like a fucking moron. He
yeah.
wore like a cowboy hat, like a fucking. He looked like an idiot.
Yeah. That's such a crazy, it's so true, because it's like undeniably like I can't believe we're at that point in human history, and it's like impressive, but
Yeah.
it's more overarching. Like I just feel more depressed about it more than anything else, because like
Well,
the
yeah,
fact of like changing space, like the literal final frontier, into like a corporate tourism
yeah,
trap is like the saddest thing in the
yeah,
world to me.
yeah, oh
It's
yeah,
so sad.
yeah, yeah. So that like that's definitely what's gonna happen first.
Yeah.
Um,
And then the world will burn, and then we'll have to go
and
on the
then
Jeff
the world
Bezos
will
rocket
work
and live in like
exactly.
these Amazon pods, and
Yeah,
like get
right,
force fed like Amazon like apple
exactly.
juice.
Yeah, yeah. I think Jeff Bezos is the equivalent of. I'm not kidding when I say this. Like a super villain.
I
Like I
know.
think
Yeah.
he is
Yeah.
like
Seriously.
he is scary.
I
Um,
know.
because he created something that is undeniable.
Yeah.
Amazon is fucking awesome. It's amazing. The fact that
Yeah.
I can sit there and order underwear and it will be there on my doorstep the next
Bruh.
day.
Bruh, not even just underwear. You can buy
Anything.
Taiwanese underwear made from your favorite model's pubic hair.
My glass dildo that I have coming in
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Made out of like ant shells.
Right.
Like ant shells dildos. Ew. Ew. You think that'd be sticky? Ew.
Throw up.
Just piece together like ant carcasses, and you like glue them together like bit by bit.
Looks like
That
that sounds like a horror movie.
yeah, ant
Sounds
dill.
like something like
That's a
Buffalo
David.
Bill would do.
Yeah, that's like a David Cronenberg's next film. Is he ever going to make a movie again? Did he
David
retire?
Cronenberg?
Yeah.
He did a movie kind of recently that I saw. It was close, maybe it was close to 10 years ago. I don't know.
Yeah. That kind of
But,
happens a lot now. But Brandon
I
Cronenberg,
mean,
his son, he's making.
yeah, that Possessor is really cool.
I love we love Possessor. We
Yeah, it's
talked
a really
about
cool
that.
movie.
I hope he makes
Um,
more movies.
Cronenberg, I mean, he had a movie called Eastern Promises that he made like the late 2000s. That was
Yeah.
really, really good.
Yeah.
I think History of Violence came out like 2006 or something.
Never
That's a
seen
really
that.
good movie.
I've never seen that. I need
That's
to
an
see that.
incredible movie. That's a really dark one, but it's a really good one.
Yes. Well, so goes Cronenberg. He doesn't
Yeah,
usually make rom-coms.
yeah, no, he does. Eastern Promises is really good too. Um, oh, speaking of movies,
Uh-huh.
I rewatched. I don't know what. I was in a weird head. After I called you, I was like, I want to watch a movie. And I was like, what am I going to watch? And I was like, decided to watch Eyes Wide Shut
Oh shit.
again.
Yeah.
Have you seen Eyes Wide Shut?
No, I haven't. I've just been like trying to figure out like when's the mood for this.
hard to find the mood for it.
Yeah, I just need to
But
watch it.
everyone who talks about like Stanley Kubrick he was on a different planet
Yeah,
of
yeah, man.
filmmaking. Like he was just on a playing field that I don't think anybody has really reached. Like there's
Yeah,
definitely some people who have like I think the movie that we're talking about today, The Green Knight, has some Kubrick isms in it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But I don't know, man. I watched is I've seen it before. Like I saw it in high school. And I was way too young to see that.
yeah,
In high school, it is super. It's a bizarre movie. It's such
yeah,
a weird movie. And when you get older, you kind of understand it more. Like the themes of it are very complicated and odd, and you just wouldn't get it when I was like 16 or whatever I saw
yeah,
it. Yeah, that movie is
yeah.
crazy. Crazy.
Kubrick has a way of filmmaking where like the style of Kubrick filmmaking is kind of like the art film where it's like you piece together the thing sort of like a discovery process, kind of like expressionistic. But and the movies I can compare to Kubrick are kind of like that in vibe.
Yeah.
But Kubrick has this kind
And it
of
also depends on what Kubrick film you're talking about.
right, that
There's
too.
so
But
many different types of films. I haven't seen all his movies yet.
yeah.
I have not seen Lolita, and I have
Oh
not
yeah, I haven't
seen
seen that.
Barry Lyndon.
Yeah.
But I've seen his other films, and they're all. What I love, another thing that I love about him is that all his films are different in some way, but
Yeah.
they do have. There are some stylistic similarities between all of them. Like you can tell in his Kubrick, but Full Metal Jacket is completely different than
Yeah.
Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, but he has this like way of like crafting stories where it's like he has an understanding of subtext, like a kind of command and
Yeah.
like intentional creation where he like knows how like it's like he can this like there's so many conspiracy
Well,
theories about this, but like he
I
has like
think what
this
you're
future
good.
sight type of
I think
shit.
what you're getting at, yeah, like that too for sure. Like he was like a genius. I mean,
Yeah,
if you like
absolute.
read about, he would do like I think I read like he would do like complicated like mathematics for fun, like as like a hobby. Like he was just who the fuck does that?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what?
Right. Like Einstein and
Yeah.
Kubrick.
And then there was this crazy there's this there's not a lot of footage of Kubrick, but some of the only footage I've seen of him was from the making of The Shining,
Yeah.
which is that's on YouTube. It's one of the weirdest and bizarre behind the scenes footage because that movie's
Is
so
it just called
fascinating.
making
Yeah,
it's
you can
called
look up like
Making
just
of
like
The
making of The
Shining?
Shining or whatever, and it's just like 30 minutes of like behind the scenes footage of it. And famously Kubrick was a dick to Shelley Duvall, kind of creating this
Yeah.
performance, like literally making her terrifying on set and things like that. But anyway, there's a story. I don't know if it was in that documentary. I don't remember where I heard this, but he would when he was prepping The Shining, he built a by himself a model of the Outlook Hotel, a giant
Whoa.
model of the Outlook Hotel, and he would bring the cinematographer in and tell them they would storyboard it like that. He would have the whole model of the hotel. He'd be like, "Okay, the
Wow.
camera's gonna go here." And, like he like plotted out. It would be like a giant game board, and he literally planned the movie all out on this giant
Yeah.
and where the lights would be, where the camera would be. That is
Yeah.
psychotic. That is
Yeah.
that is like photographic memory
Yeah.
or just this other level of planning that he had. And all you have to do with Kubrick too is he made 2001, A Space
Yeah.
Odyssey.
Yeah.
Bruh,
Yeah.
dude, that movie still, to this day, looks amazing. It came out in 67. He was so ahead of his time.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy.
60s.
You
That
know,
movie came out.
Kubrick is a director that I would compare to Mozart, or another composer who works like Mozart was
Absolutely.
Dmitri Shostakovich, which the way that they composed their symphonies was they didn't like work it out on paper. They did it all in
Yeah.
their head.
Oh
And
my
once it
god.
was done in their head, like I'm not talking like main melody line. I'm talking like
Yeah, that's
whole choral sections, operas, dude,
yeah,
all of
that's
it in their head. And then they would like write it all down in like a course of a couple of
yeah,
hours.
that's
That's
fucking
Kubrick.
wild.
That's how
Yeah.
Kubrick made
Kubrick.
movies.
But also, I find Son is such an interesting. All his films have such interesting stories behind them, like the making
Yeah.
of them, and I find Son maybe has the most interesting one because you might want to look
Well,
this up. I don't know if this is true, but at the
yeah.
time when it was made, it was the longest movie shoot of all time. Um, they
Oh,
shot. It
wow.
took. Guess how long that movie took to make?
I'm gonna guess like, is it more
Go
than
within
5
like
years?
days. No, like days. So go like
Okay.
production days. And movie stars Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
Yeah. Well, is it like, what is it reasonable for like a movie to shoot for like 365 days? I guess I should know this,
No,
but I don't really
that is
know.
so.
Yeah,
The movie
it's really,
okay. Think about this. So it's not like you
yeah.
shoot every day for like a year, right? You
Right.
have breaks off. You have to give people time off, right?
Right, right,
The
right,
movie
right.
was 400 production days
Wow, of shooting.
of shooting, so that's over a year. So really
Wow,
think
just
about that.
shooting.
So that's
Yeah,
probably
that's actually really
close to
crazy.
2 years of um shooting a movie. Of shooting the movie, Jesse.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, just shooting, not
Shooting it.
editing. Cause like, yeah, because like most movies are like made over the course of like a year, entire
Most
movies like a year or
entire
two.
films. Most movies, I think the average, like years ago, let's say The Green Knight, for example. This was
Yeah.
probably shot within 1 to 2 months, most
Yeah.
likely.
Right. Right.
Um, and like Marvel movies, for example, they shoot for like probably like 4 months because there's just so much action and things like that
Going
are
on.
take more
Wow.
time and more effort to
That's
film.
that's that's
Um,
crazy.
and I've always said it's not an action movie. This is
No.
very slow, character piece.
Yeah.
But it is when you watch it, it has this. The performances are so all he has gotten ridiculously unique performances out of actors in like every movie.
Yeah.
Shelley Duvall being like the pinnacle of it because
Yeah.
she not only did nothing afterwards, after she was not in anything after
Yeah.
that, like she just you know well famously hated her experience with The Shining and
Yeah.
I think steered away from film, but like she didn't really have a career after that.
Yeah.
And that performance is it is one of the most terrifying and real performances I have ever seen in a movie, like to this day.
Yeah.
It's so bone chilling how realistic she is in that movie.
Yeah.
Because
She
she was actually
was.
scared for her fucking life.
Yeah.
And 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 Eyes Wide Shut, the characters are supposed to be tired and um almost dejected from life.
Yeah.
Because the movie purposely has this dream-like state.
Yeah.
So his philosophy was he would literally do hundreds and hundreds of takes of Tom Cruise walking through a fucking door and
Yeah.
walking down a fucking hallway hundreds
Yeah.
and hundreds of times until Tom Cruise was legit tired, pissed off, and annoyed.
Yeah.
And that shows in the performance in the
Yeah.
show with Nicole Kidman. And interestingly, that was the last one that he ever made. And
He died
Nicole
before that
Kidman,
movie finished, right?
so he died four days after the final cut of it. He presented it to Warner Brothers. So he showed
Wow.
it to Warner Brothers like this is the final cut, and then he died 4 days later.
That's
And what's really creepy is
what.
that everybody who's working on that movie everyone around it, no one had a sense that he was in poor health.
Wow.
Like
Wow.
he was, I don't know. Like I don't know. I haven't really looked up maybe how he died. We probably know, like if it was cancer or
Yeah.
something, and he
I'll
just
do
wasn't telling people.
I'll do a quick Wikipedia.
But no. And then another thing that was fascinating that Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, when they signed on to do a movie, they signed on to do like it literally. This is unheard of. Like this is not a regular
Yeah.
contract. And the contract literally said they signed on to do the movie until Kubrick said it was done. So meaning that they were just in for the long haul. They were like,
Jeez.
we're in for as long as this movie takes. And
Yeah.
so they were in, and they also, the movie set in New York, and Kubrick was insistent on all his films were shot in London. He just didn't want to, he just
Leave.
wanted to be at his home where he lives. So he just didn't
Yeah.
want to, and so they had to recreate like this
New
block
York.
in New York, like a set.
Wow.
And But yeah, 400 days. 400
Yeah.
days. And I don't, and that is the longest movie shoot. I don't know if it still stands because it's like 20 years old at this point. There might be a
Yeah.
movie that beat it, but
Yeah. Yeah. I just looked it up and it looks like he died of a heart attack, probably from stress. He died in his sleep from a heart attack,
okay.
probably just from stress because he was like a 70-year-old man pushing himself too hard.
Right.
But the thing about Kubrick that I'm thinking about that you were talking is that he's almost like a method director, which that's kind of like a weird thing to say, but it's like the way he makes actors act is that he instead it's not like he forces them to be a method actor. He just like forces them to have the experience, to have the feelings that he wants them to have in real life. He just like manipulates them to have the feelings he literally wants them to have, and they literally have
so
that.
He literally, and there's an argument to be had of is that would a Kubrick exist nowadays? Because
Yeah.
like
Yeah, like unions,
would that
rights.
would that be literally like what do you even call it? Like um, you know, just uncomfortable at the workplace because you're
Yeah.
being forced to do something
Yeah.
or you're being manipulated to do something.
I think yeah. I think that that like nowadays I don't have a problem with that, with the understanding that the actors who are participating are fully consenting professionals. That's the thing.
Well, that's the thing is, I mean,
and that's a hard thing to classify. That's a hard thing to classify.
Like, I mean, if you do that, you're almost giving yourself up. You can't get somebody to actually be upset if they're, you know what I mean, if they're willing to get upset. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like they're gonna know like if
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
you actually
I see what you're
have
saying.
to like be off-putting and
Yeah,
be,
I see what you're saying. That's kind of like, and actually that makes me think of Lars von Trier, who is like, he is an asshole, but he does shit like that too, and he's gotten in trouble. He got in a lot of trouble with for that, because especially like with Bjork and shit, and like other things, and like what was it, Nicole Kidman?
You know what's fascinating? Oh, right, Bongo, yeah. But what's really fascinating is that people continue to work with these people.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing that's weird.
For the art, they're willing to do it because their films are so great. And I don't know if Kubrick was necessarily an asshole. I think he was just he was just doing these things that would get to actors in a place,
Yeah,
and I think
it's
by Eyes Wide Shut, I think the Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman were aware of that, and they were willing to, like, they signed a contract where they were like, they literally signed a contract that said, we are Kubrick's captive.
Yeah, right.
Forever until he says we're done.
Yeah, and it makes me think about like senseis in movies that go really hard on their martial arts students and are just like really tough teachers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, like going through like really rough and like destructive kind of events can be a really great growth experience, especially for specific type of people, like people who climb mountains and like try to like peak Everest. You know, it's like that's not a fun experience. That's a brutal thing to do to you. That goes through
by the end of it,
but people try to do it all the time, and everyone there's so many people who want to do that, and it's valuable. But it's like the thing that's like scary about it is that like when you're in a position like climbing a mountain's omnipotent. A mountain doesn't care. It's just going to be a mountain and be dangerous, and you can decide to do it or not. Well, when you're in a position,
you're risking your life when you're doing that.
But what you are risking is potentially like emotional trauma and like PTSD and because like that can be like, that's the thing that we're coming out with like now with like psychology and finding like mental disorders is like how much shit like that can really fuck you up. So if you don't have like, if you have someone in a position of power like Kubrick, who really, I don't know, like you just get cities, like you have rapists for directors and shit like that. And, you know, you can get so confused and in like this world of this person of power that you do shit that you look back on that was just like, I was a slave to like this person's like demands and stuff. And it could get really scary, but you know, it's a really, again, it's like a fine line between like genius and evil.
No, all we know is that this is what he did. I don't know if he was like, I mean, I don't know, man, and he rarely did interviews or anything. So I don't even know what he was. He was so
like
elusive.
Yeah,
you don't even know what he was really like as a person.
Yeah,
he might have been a very sweet guy. He probably was a very sweet guy.
Yeah,
but I think he was just. He might have told the King of the Conquerors, like, we're gonna do this until you're fucking tired because that's just the way that we need to do this, you know?
Right.
He might have been nice about it. I don't know. He might have just been like, hey, we're gonna do this because I need you guys to get there, and and they look at him because he's fucking Stanley Kubrick, and this is 1997. You know, he's fucking Kubrick. It's not like, you know, it's like working with Scorsese. Like that.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna do anything that this man tells me because he made Taxi Driver.
Yeah, and it's like it's also the problem of celebrity worship, you know, because it's like Kubrick is a person, or like all these famous people are people too, who people can talk to, but we see them as like icons.
I think what you're getting at is that there are some asshole directors that you hear about that maybe took a page from the Kubrick book of being an asshole or something.
Yeah.
And that turns into you know, being actually toxic, you know? Instead of
right.
art and doing it for getting these performances that feel as real as they can be. And I'm not saying that's the right method to do. And I think there's some directors who would say, that's the right method to do.
Yeah.
But like, I think other people work differently, and that's just the way that he worked. You didn't really hear any stories about, you know, like Shelley Duvall does seem traumatized for sure.
Yeah.
But like, you know, it's a complicated thing because The Shining is an incredible piece of work, but was it worth it? That's the question, right? Was it worth somebody's emotional turmoil to make this, you know, masterpiece?
Right.
Influenced culture on an insane level that I think we're just realizing now.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think we've said, I don't know, it's really, I don't think it's necessary to have to victimize people to make great art. And I think but the fact of the matter is that The Shining exists now by whatever means was necessary for it to exist. And like, and I don't think it's our responsibility. And I think some people hold the belief that like avoiding films that might have like toxic creation process, or like not watching or studying Bill Cosby's comedy because he's a rapist, I don't think there's a lot of worth in necessarily vetting what you're watching because of the content that it's supporting.
I mean, I think
it's like
also what you're saying is like separating the art from the artist,
right,
like
which is a theme it's a theme that we always talk about.
Like Bill Cosby, as much as he's a terrible person, he's a great comedian. I can't, like, I'm seeing some of his stand up and it's great. His early stand up's amazing. But it's artwork, it's a piece of art. Stand up is, when you put something together, it's not like him just getting on stage and being like waka waka. It's like, it's a structured piece of art. Every word that they're saying is premeditated and written, and it's a way of doing it.
Right.
But there are other comedians who don't do that, but he was, he's someone who really meticulously crafted an hour of material, and
then presented it.
But like, I mean, I just like hearing stories like that because it's just so bizarre and crazy,
Yeah, I mean, it's like
I don't really take a lot of the merit. Like, I'm not gonna watch The Shining because Shelley Duvall was traumatized. If anything, that adds something to the movie because it makes it even more disturbing in a way.
Yeah, and it's like
it already is.
And it's like I sometimes there's like some papers about like people. Sometimes I feel like there's this opinion going on where like people try to advocate for there's some kind of like ethical guiltiness that you should feel for taking pleasure, and it's like it's a necessary comment on society because go ahead.
Well, I think the bigger issue for real is like somebody like Roman Polanski, who is a rapist, and he made some incredible movies. Like, he's made some amazing movies, like Rosemary's Baby, The Piano, The Tenant. He's made incredible movies. And the thing that disturbs me about that guy is that when people found out about this, they would still work for him. That is the part that's fucked up. Like, he made Rosemary's Baby and all these things, and maybe he was raped. I don't know when he raped somebody long time ago, but like, whatever. Even if you did know, but now that people know and they're still willing to work with this guy, that part is weird to me. That part is like, I don't know. That doesn't sit right with me.
I know that's a good example.
Behind the scenes of it, where it's like Brett Ratner is a piece of shit, but his movies make a lot of money, so I'm gonna work for him. It's like, dude, you gotta take a stand. You gotta be like, Bryan Singer is a piece of shit. Everybody knew that Bryan Singer is a piece of shit. But the thing is, he made the X-Men movies. They tons of money. They're great superhero movies. So people will work with him, even though they knew he was raping people. And that is just disgusting. That's like, this should have happened way earlier, that this guy is just shut out of Hollywood. Because you don't have to be doing this to make good art,
Yeah. And it's like it's interesting because like that's how I think our society, like with like the Me Too movement, all of this stuff, that's how our society has done a great job of combining and changing the mindset around that, because it's really weird to think about. It is,
that's like
but it's so much better
critical though,
because the thing is now that's different is that it didn't used to be that we even saw this as a problem. So it's like a dramatic change that our society sees this as a problem now. It still sucks that that's like all that we have right now. We don't get to like what we need is to be able to remove these people from positions of power, or to give people who are under, like, find themselves like working with people like that they have some way to get out of it, or not have to lose their career or go through like a ridiculous, he says, she said situation. It's just like, why do we have to like go through all this shit? It's like, this person's a dick. This person's horrible. Let's just protect me. I don't know.
Exactly. It's fucking, and then it's just like disturbing too that there's corporations that would give the Polanski millions of dollars to make a movie, and like, that at the end of the day is really what is the problem. It's like these corporations that don't care about like the morality of hiring a
Yeah.
rapist to make
Yeah.
your movie, like a known rapist.
You
to
know
make
what I think part of it is too is that the way that our society is built is that we're not built off of individuals making situations, it's off of like corporations making
Oh my
situations.
god,
So like
yeah.
the person who's like executing or signing the contract with Roman Polanski
What an
is
ass.
like is a guy who was sent by another guy who's sent by
Exactly.
another guy who's sent by a group of another guy.
Yeah.
So it was never like one person who was making that decision, like saying, I'm making this ethical stance that we're going to hire Roman Polanski. It was everyone else. It was like a group of people who decided that's where the money is. And then
Right.
everyone just says, just like, I'm just doing what I was told. So everyone is
Yeah.
exempted from like
Yeah.
the moral guilt of it. But it's just like, but it's like, so it's like everyone feels like they're exempted, but everyone's still a part of it. And in a way, that argument, even the people who go see it are kind of a part of that like ethical transaction. It's like,
Exactly.
I think it's
But I
true,
will
but
say to that, I mean, some people don't really pay attention to directors. Most people don't, you know.
yeah, right.
So I can't really fault people who go see an X-Men movie, for example,
Right.
or something like that, you know. But I think it is important. I think that should change. I think people should know. I mean, I don't know. With now the internet, I think things are getting out.
Yeah.
Like if a movie's coming out that has some bullshit attached to it, I think people are gonna know and they're gonna take a stand and not see it, you know.
Yeah.
But I hope so. But
Yeah.
but
And it's also
anyway,
different. It's also interesting too with like movies how they age, because a movie that just comes out is much more politically
yeah,
relevant because of the people, because that person who's directing is in the our like society making impact,
right,
versus like a million years ago, not whatever it was, like 20 years ago or even 5 years ago. It's like
hmm,
that movie just like it doesn't really matter. Like The Shining is just like, what, like we can bring examples like theoretical or like make like
yeah,
analyze it and stuff, but it doesn't really have much impact in the same way that we're talking about like with an X-Men movie. So like it would have an
right,
impact to say like, I'm not going to see the next X-Men movie because that director's an asshole, I'm not giving him my money, I don't
yeah,
want to support that, versus like saying I'm watching The Shining, maybe but Shelley Duvall was like traumatized, it's in the
right,
past,
yeah,
it's different.
yeah. It's interesting how time will do that. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're absolutely right. Um, but yeah, Eyes Wide Shut is fucking great.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of my favorite Kubrick movies.
Maybe I'll watch that
Absolutely
soon.
bizarre. Um, Tom Cruise is like amazing in it. Definitely one of my favorite Tom Cruise performances. It's. I think a lot of it is because Kubrick basically tortured him.
Yeah.
Uh, he's just he just seemed so fucking tired, like tired to the point where you can't act out. Like he just
Yeah.
seems so like,
Real tired.
and that's
Real
what the
tired.
character's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So it works, you know. And I think Tom Cruise has even come out and said, you know, making it was an amazing experience because I think he just loved working with Kubrick because Kubrick is fucking genius. But also, like when he saw it, he ultimately was like, okay, this was maybe if I was on set thinking that this was the wrong decision or this is just so much work and but it paid off. You know, when you
Yeah.
see it, it is a work of art and that
Yeah.
people because actors like Tom Cruise and like all these guys who are in giant movies, when they make something that actually sparks a conversation like Eyes Wide Shut, either like it or like love it or hate it, that
Yeah.
is so exciting to them. When they're involved in something that is a global conversation like Eyes Wide Shut was, where everybody because I also read about like the release of that and how interesting it was because it was like I was two when it came out, but but like it was marketed because Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise were married at the time
Oh
when
shit.
the movie came out
Oh yeah.
and and when they were making the movie
Yeah.
and it was marketed like it was like this sexy movie like it was like
Yeah.
this sex it was a like a sensual kind of movie. It
Yes.
was a lot of
Celebrity sex.
and not only is it not that, it treats sex in a way that is completely, totally opposite of sexy and
Yeah.
sensual for a reason.
Yeah.
And Actually, I think it's brilliant how he does that. And there's a lot of actually really interesting articles and stuff like that about Eyes Wide Shut that is really, really interesting, and it really shows how amazing filmmaker he is, just the
Yeah.
way that he shoots naked women in the movie, and how he literally makes things just that are inherently sexual just completely unsexy. And it's actually just
Wow.
very, very fascinating watching it. It's very interesting. Um, but yeah, when it came out, it was the complete opposite of what people thought. But not only, but it had a reaction to people. You know, it
Yeah.
created a reaction. That's what you want. When
Yeah.
you're an artist, like I'd rather have. We said that, like if I had a film coming out or an album coming out, I'd rather have people love it. Like either like I'd rather have like half people love it and half the people like hate it. I'd rather have
Mm.
that where it creates this like you know you want that, you want a reaction. You don't want it to like come out and be like, oh, that was fine, or
Yeah.
that was bad, and everyone is just like, that was bad. You know, it would be
You're
great if
right.
you could like have like what like Kubrick did. He made
Yeah.
things that spark like this conversation. And the Green Knight, which I think we should talk about right now,
I think, yeah, I
which
think
I
this is
think
that's
that
a
this
perfect
movie
segue.
is sparking conversation, and I think it
Yeah.
is a really great movie. I just think this is a great movie, and I think that this is going to age really well as
Yeah.
well. Um, yeah, so this is the new A24 movie, The Green Knight, that came out probably when you're listening to this, probably like a month ago or a couple
Yeah,
weeks
like
ago before.
did it come out in July, like late July?
I
Like
think so. I think I
July?
saw it the second week it was out, possibly. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. Anyways.
Um, Anyway, but it's directed by David Lowery, who is a really interesting filmmaker. Who is interesting in the way that he has a foot in the door of the Disney blockbusters, but he also has a foot in the door in art cinema.
What did
Um,
you do for
so
Disney? You've
he
told me this
made
before.
Pete's Dragon, the remake of Pete's
Oh,
Dragon, which is
that's right.
actually great. And then he just finished, or he's still shooting right now, an adaptation of Peter Pan, a new live action version of Peter Pan.
This
Um,
guy, this guy is crazy.
it's
I can't.
fascinating, right?
This is
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So he did that, and then
Wow.
he's made a bunch of like really cool indie movies. One being one of my favorite films of the decade. It's called A Ghost Story.
Yeah, I need to see that,
Absolutely a
dude.
beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful movie. Not for everybody. Warning: if you like The Green Knight, you might not like A Ghost Story. Just
Yeah.
familiarize yourself with The Ghost Story. And if it looks interesting to you, check it out. I think you'll like it a lot. But it is not for everybody. It is very, very weird movie. Um, but so I was incredibly excited for this because I love The Ghost Story. I really like David Lowery as a filmmaker. I thought Peace Dragon was great, honestly. And I just think he is a really interesting filmmaker. Like he's just some like I think it's interesting that he could go make a blockbuster like Peace Dragon and then do a ghost story right after it, and then do this, and then a big budget art film. I would say The Green Knight. This is like
Hmm.
a big
Yeah.
budget within. It's like a $20 million movie,
Yeah.
which is still pretty low, but it
In
seems
the
like a big
grand
budget.
schemes of things, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a big budget because they actually use the money wisely and put it on
Yes.
the screen.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and and then he's gonna do this Peter Pan movie, which I'm genuinely very excited about because I would love to see. Just I hope it's in a new like Peace Dragon. I hope it's a different version of like his version of Peter Pan, which
Yeah.
is really cool. And because this movie actually gets me really excited for Peter Pan than what he did the adaptation of this of the
Right.
Green Knight, which if you guys are not aware, the Green Knight is a poem. It's a medieval poem.
Yeah.
That
Arthurian legend.
yeah,
Arthurian legend.
Arthur, yeah, it's part of the Knights of the Round Table kind of stories and shit. And what the story is about is Sir Gawain, who is Arthur's nephew.
Yeah.
He it's basically, long story short, and then we're gonna get into it. It's basically his test of becoming a knight.
Yeah. Finding honor.
Finding
Yeah.
honor. That's basically what this movie is. And um, before we talk about it, I just want to also say that since we've been, I don't know, the last few podcasts we've talked about kind of what's good and what's bad.
Mm-hmm.
You might not like this movie. This movie is not for everybody. It is.
Yes. Good point.
This is why I love reviews, and this is why I love podcasts, and this is why I love film journalism at the end of the day. Is
Right.
that for people to read it and familiarize themselves what they're getting into and going to see it. Because I think expectation can really hurt your experience watching this. Because if you
Yes.
go into this thinking that it's going to be an action movie, like a night action movie with a lot of swordplay or and stuff like that, you're going to be severely disappointed.
Yes.
It's not that type of movie.
Yeah.
This is a very hypnotic and very, like we said, like Kubrickian kind of fantasy tale.
Yeah.
And I think if you go into that and kind of give yourself up to that, I think most people will really like this movie. But I just have to say that because like I don't want people to like go see this and then not like it and then get mad at me because that's happened before.
Right. Right.
Because it's like it was too slow or it was just not what they wanted. I think expectation is one of the biggest things that falters people from
Right.
not liking things.
And I think the thing with I would describe the Green Knight as being a very expressionistic style, not abstract, expressionistic.
Yeah,
because
I wouldn't
like
call this the weirdest thing you ever seen, you know.
Yeah, but if you are like used to looking
in the way of A24 movies, I guess.
Yeah, right. If you're used to looking at like Renaissance painting, like a Mona Lisa, where you look at it, it's like what a beautiful woman, or like what a beautiful picture of Christ. It's like it's more like an expressionistic like Van Gogh painting. And if you've never like seen that or don't know what it is, like the people when Van Gogh was first making paintings, when they saw that, it's just like, what is this junk? You know, it's like, what am I even looking at? It's like that, you know, if you don't know, if you're used to lines, if you're used to seeing beautiful women and like big titties and nice shiny swords and stuff like that, it's just like, it's still clearly, it's not like an abstract triangle. Like there's like a knight and found, but it's different.
What you're also trying to say is that this movie feels like a poem.
Yeah.
Think about when you read a poem, think about the way a poem makes you feel, the way that you're supposed to read a poem.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to read a poem and go, I know exactly what the author of that was getting at. It's supposed to make you feel some type of way with the metaphors of the words, you know?
It's a lot more about like the subtext of a piece rather than like what is the story directly being told. It's like the mood, which some people I know just hate that. They just hate shit like that.
That's a good point.
They see it like as a waste of time.
If you hear that, that's a waste of time. That's
cool.
Totally cool.
It's cool.
Just go see it. You know, I don't think you'll like it. But because I had a couple of people close to me who saw this and were liked it, but they were confused of like kind of what, and I kind of let them know like you're not supposed to like have and I think people do feel kind of like dumb sometimes when they see things like this and they think they're supposed to like get everything. Like they feel dumb because they just didn't understand the plot. Don't worry about it. Do not worry about it. That is what it's supposed to make you feel like that. Ponder what you just saw. There's a lot of visual metaphors going on in this, and there's a lot of imagery that if you just don't pick up on, you might lose a big portion of this movie.
And the other side of it too is I think people who watch movies like this, there's the one side of like literally not following, but there's also the other side of not trusting that maybe the surface that they're experiencing is as simple as it may be, because something like Inception is complicated in a plot type of form.
For me, I found this movie to be incredibly simple. Like,
yeah, but the plot is super simple.
Yeah,
like a man goes to a place and that's it. And most people like just don't trust that that's it. And it's just like, well, it's not, but that's all the plot is. That is all it is. There's nothing more complicated than that. You're not missing anything. You should trust that. But the experience of what else is going on is the subtextual, emotional, poetic, evocative stuff that like we're like trying to explain, you know? So but
I think that's a good kind of basis of what this kind of is.
Yes.
And then, but I also just want to add, before we get into like spoilers and stuff, Dev Patel is amazing.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
Lead actor.
The lead actor is amazing. Joel Edgerton's amazing. Alicia Vikander, all the actors in this movie do an amazing job. The visuals are absolutely stunning. This movie is gorgeous to look at. And that's a big part of this movie, is the landscapes. Just the atmosphere that David Lowery creates in this movie. He took a lot of inspiration from people like Tarkovsky and Kubrick. And the way that he creates atmosphere.
So good. Tarkovsky's like a perfect comparison of what this is like. Such Tarkovsky worship in a lot of ways.
I've only seen one Tarkovsky movie, and that was Solaris. So and there are definitely lines in Solaris in this, I felt, just in terms of the rhythm of it. And
it's a lot like Stalker too, especially in the landscape presentation too.
So everything technically I thought was amazing in this, and so I think now I want to get into spoilers, because I want to talk about kind of the meat of this movie and kind of like what I loved so much about it. The favorite thing about this really was, to me, was just how, because there's sometimes where you see things that are based on kind of medieval poems or things like this that try to make it very grounded in reality and very
literal, like too literal almost.
What I love about this is that it is structured in a way that is like very surreal and poem-like. The way that there's chapters in this movie, the way it just feels like we were watching an old story. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it just feels like you're watching something that the way that the poem most likely feels like this episodic kind of surreal journey.
It evokes a kind of ancient meaning somehow, like effectively and genuinely, and it's not pretentious. I find
it's not pretentious at all. I don't find this movie to be, and there's no pretension in this, I think, whatsoever. And I think that if you do think that, I just think that you're watching this movie wrong. And I don't think that I mean, this is based on a medieval, like, story. Like, it's almost the equivalent to, like, if you were adapting a Bible story, you know? Like, of making these, like, an adaptation of something that is so old. But because those stories were just written for morals, you know? Like, that's why we're still making movies about the Green Knight, or there was a Noah movie that came out like not too long ago. There's a reason that we're still talking about these stories that were written God knows how long ago, like thousands of years ago.
The other thing about like that I think is kind of silly about not recognizing the fault in adapting these ancient movies really literally is that these ancient stories are incredibly primitive, you know? Like if you read the Bible, there's an ancient magic to reading the Bible, which I just started reading it recently. But if you look at it, what it is just like this guy killed this guy, then he fucked this person, and he had 1,000 kids, and it's just like
it's all for almost like a like what is the story about? It's usually like that's what kind of these tales, especially Green Knight. And this movie, to me, the story is about destiny, and it's about honor, and it's about proving yourself worthy. And as corny as that sounds, there is something so primitive, what you said, to the human experience that we can relate so hard to that. That's why
Yeah.
this movie's coming out probably 400 or 500 years later after the story
Yeah.
was written.
Yeah,
You
because
know?
like the story, what David Lowery did is he like translated the moral of the story to a modern context
Yeah.
without like the
Without losing
consumerist model. Yes, without
without
losing it.
losing
Yeah,
the
it keeps.
magic of the original story.
Yes, yeah, and I think that that is like a such it does it just that alone, like set aside like any of the the technical magnificence that's a part of this film, the
Mm-hmm.
technical prowess or just like the creativity. That fact of being able to effectively adapt that in that
Yeah,
way
right.
is, I just find that really admirable.
It
Like
is
I think that
super
is
because
so
there. I
admirable.
find it so yeah, me too. Because if you were to make something like this, if a different director, maybe would make a more blockbuster version of The Green Knight,
Right.
which would be, more action, more, it would add things that people like,
Yeah.
where it would be like, we need more humor, we need, a side character, we need a love interest, we need all these things that would
Yeah.
appeal to a mass audience. And
Yeah.
this doesn't feel like it was manipulated by some kind of um, like the King Arthur movie that came out,
Yeah.
5, 6 years ago. That was bullshit. I don't care what people say. I fucking hated that movie. I thought it
Yeah.
was bullshit. And that was the perfect. This movie is the complete fucking opposite of that. Because the King
Yeah.
Arthur was modernized. It was over the top. It was just at the end of the day, your typical blockbuster just with King Arthur, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
weren't speaking in the correct language. It was modern, the way that modern people talk, which is already just absolutely ridiculous. And this
Yeah.
movie just doesn't do that. It is a very purist approach to the the source material is.
Yeah.
And that's so admirable. As crazy as that sounds to say, it is admirable in this time that people actually take the source
Yeah.
material the way that it's supposed to be taken.
Yeah, and I think he also, I think that this is sort of the irony of correctly adapting things, is that he didn't follow it strictly. I think that that's an
Yeah.
essential part of adapting effectively,
Oh,
is that he
absolutely. Yeah.
changed it to say, I'm going to adapt the way that this feels, but also still make this my movie in the way that it
Exactly.
needs to be
Right.
moved. Because
Right.
like Dave Patel is a certain type of it's Garwin. Is that how he say his name?
Garland. Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Garwin,
Garland.
because
Garland.
they said it like Garwin, but it was spelled. I thought it was spelled like
Garland.
Gaiwan, which is like Gawain, is how I read it. But like it
Oh, I
sounded like
think
they were saying Garwin,
they say
Gaiwin.
Yeah, he's referred to as Garland in the movie.
That's at least how Arthur says it. He says like he's
Yeah.
like hard R like Garwin. So I
Right.
don't know, whatever. But anyways, like that, like they adapt it. David Lowery, it's like it's still a David Lowery movie.
Yes.
Still, it's
Yeah.
not. It's not like it's his movie brilliantly adapting a source
Exactly.
material.
And that's like, what I think he's going for and what it's
Yeah.
like. Um, so let's kind of just like break this down. So let's kind of talk about um the movie. And there's not like tons of things to talk about in terms of like spoilers, in
Yeah.
terms of like we can just kind of talk about our favorite scenes, and I definitely want to talk about the ending and how brilliant I
Right.
thought the ending was in this
Right.
movie. And just a lot of um the visual motifs that I had picked up on after I saw it when I just started thinking about it and how things kind of connect that may seem kind of confusing when you first see it and walk out of it.
Yeah.
For example, the visual motif of heads just being cut off
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
and a lot of severed heads in this movie, and that connects to the end of the film and how things end up going for Garland.
Yeah.
Um, but so first of all, when this movie opened, I already kind of loved it because I
Yeah.
love movies that are bold enough to open up on like a just a crazy image, like a just a bizarre like because I just love the audacity that a filmmaker is like, here's a guy sitting on a throne and he just combusts into flames.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah.
this beautiful shot. And I don't quite understand. I need to see it again because I don't quite remember what there's like a kind of this poem kind of said at the beginning of the film, like this like
Yeah.
kind of that I don't really remember like what was said. I just
Yeah.
remember the imagery being like incredible.
Yeah.
Um,
And
one
that
of
imagery actually really it actually bookends the film really well because it connects back to the ending of the
true.
film.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Yes, you're right. Yeah, now I get it.
Yeah.
but
I
you're
think that's
absolutely
the
right.
big piece that a lot of
Right.
people will be like, why? It's like,
Yeah,
well,
you're absolutely right.
it's just him as the
Yeah.
king
Yeah.
that he's not supposed to be.
Right, exactly. And so, and then the shot after that was this like amazing kind of um landscape shot of this hut, and you see
Hut.
kind of
Good
the
hut.
hut, and you see like fire burning in the distance, and it really gets like this like every
Yeah.
we've said this like there's movies that I've seen recently that like Blade Runner 2049 or Portrait
Yeah.
of a Lady on Fire that literally when I say this, it sounds corny, but when you pause this movie and a lot of times and just look at it because it's an amazing painting. It's just like this amazing moving painting almost the
Yeah.
way that kind of Lynch describes film
Yep.
as a bunch of
Yep.
moving paintings.
100%. Yeah.
And there are
Totally.
so many shots in this that feel that way, that
Yeah.
feel just so there's so much depth to a lot of the shots, a lot of things going on kind of behind the way the camera moves is just so meticulous and smooth, and there's no kind of bullshit kind of camera moves in this movie. Like everything is so deliberate.
Yeah.
And
And it's also presented in a way that's not what's the word, it's not like performative, it's not a
no,
spectacle, but it is
it
so
is a
beautiful to look
spectacle,
back
but
all.
it is a
But it's
spectacle, but it's not like it's spectacle of like the natural landscape
yeah, exactly, it's like a
or
spectacle. It's you're spectating like the mundane life, because it's like that shot, the very beginning shot during the credits, like after we have Garwin, king Garwin, we have like that shot of like just like the pigs and stuff running around, like with the
right,
duck fucking with like
right,
the dog or the goat or whatever. And it's just like it just sits on that, and
yeah,
it's beautiful, but it's totally just mundane and like realistic and
yeah,
like life capturing. And but there's like still these
totally,
complicated camera movements, but it's not like attention seeking. It's not trying to like grab your attention or like
yeah,
be like the look at our complicated camera movements. It's like we're utilizing this very specific technique to communicate the
right,
feeling of this environment.
yeah. It totally gets you. With those opening shots, it creates a vibe. As
Yeah.
simple as that
Yeah.
may be, it just creates a mood and a vibe that is completely consistent throughout this entire thing.
Yeah.
Um, and how this like starts is we see Garland in a brothel, and he's
Yeah.
kind of this does a really good job of kind of setting up who Garland is. This is a very important thing because
Mm-hmm.
especially when you look at like at the end of the film and think about the rest of it, because you see that this character is a little who's doesn't really care that much about being a knight. He might not seem like he has the drive
Yeah.
or the
Unmotivated.
ambition,
Yeah.
unmotivated. And I think what I love, one of the things that I have a question mark about,
Mm-hmm.
that I wanted to ask you about, because this is
Mm.
one of the things that I was kind of confused about, and I don't know if it was a problem with the movie. It might be. I don't know.
Okay.
But you might have a different thing. So So when the guys of the round table are gathered and Arthur's there, it's on Christmas Day, and we see his mother,
Mm-hmm.
who blindfolds herself, writes this note, basically summoning the Green Knight.
Yeah.
Why did she do that?
So
Did she do that because she wanted her son to have a test? Is that why
no.
she did that?
Well, again, I don't know exactly because I don't think the movie communicates this
It
exactly. And
doesn't.
I'm but
And
I'm
I don't know
gonna
if that's a reason. Like, I don't know if that's an issue. And that's not really an issue for me,
well,
really.
but like the movie doesn't confirm it, but I think what the movie was presenting to me is that what she was trying to do was get him to become king. Basically, like this was a way for him to become king. So like what she wanted to happen was the vision he had at the end. She wanted him to get power and then she would have power through his
Okay.
experience of that. But and the other
Yeah.
thing reason why I think that's also the case is because looking at the legend is that's like the adaptation of who Garwin's mother
Mm-hmm.
is not what the Arthurian legends is. David Lowery changed it to be Morgana Le Fay,
Yeah.
who is a witch in Arthurian legend.
Okay.
And so he changed that to that Morgana the Fay was not like related to King Arthur. Like there was a different person who was Garwin's mom. So he changed that too. That's
Gotcha.
another factor of that I'm kind of pulling
Okay.
that from. And she that was kind of like her plot in the original story too. I actually don't know
Okay.
what her mission in the original story, but I think his mother's goal was to get him and to become king, essentially.
Okay. Yeah, so that was a little weird to me. Like, it just got, because it was just like, because ultimately it was like, I don't know, it seemed like that he wasn't ready or wanted to do, you know what I mean? So it just seemed kind of
Mm-hmm.
like out of nowhere that she was just kind of like, all right, I'm gonna fucking, but it's just like, it's cool. It's still a cool scene.
Yeah,
I love the moment, but it just seemed like the motivation was kind of like not there for
yeah.
her. I
How
would have liked to like got what you just explained, where it was like, I would have liked to know, like, she was having some conversation that was like, I want Darwin to, you know, have a test
yeah.
or something like that.
I think that's a reasonable
Because
criticism.
it is, well, I think so because that was confusing to me because I was like, is there malicious intent from
Right.
his mother? Because
Right.
like it'd be crazy because literally, I mean, we talk about it when the Green Knight shows up, which, bro,
Wow. Yeah.
that scene is amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing when
Yeah.
he is summoned and he. First of all, Green Knight looks incredible. The practical effects that were used on
Yeah,
him
dude.
look amazing. I
Yeah,
cannot
dude.
imagine being that guy who was
Yeah.
in that suit. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, buddy. That probably was horrible.
Yeah, but man,
But
did
you
it look
look great.
so good. It looks so
You
good.
look
And
awesome.
the other thing that I think that they people don't take into account of like why practical effects work so well, and this is one of you
Yeah.
look back to Alien. Why does Alien work so well? Great practical effects and sound design, people. It
Yeah. Oh,
sounds
yeah. Yeah.
scary. That's
Yeah.
why the Green Knight is awesome. He sounds huge. He's
Right.
only a little bit taller than everyone else, but they make his footsteps sound so heavy that he
Oh, yeah.
sounds like he is the weight of a Jetta. He sounds like
Yeah.
he's 10 Jareds, dude. He
Yeah.
sounds so heavy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. And the way he
awesome.
moves and the way that, like, because, he's basically a trait.
And you hear
And
that.
so,
You
yeah,
hear
you
that.
hear the branches kind of move. It's awesome. Yeah, but when he's summoned, it is incredible. And
Yeah.
when he comes up and he basically proposes, like, you know, the the story, which is basically you strike me down,
Yeah.
and in 1 year's time, I get to strike you down.
Yeah.
And Garland accepts this. He's just like, I'll do it because he was the only one there who was not a knight.
Yeah.
And he and Arthur kind of, in a previous scene that I thought was great, that he brings him over to kind
Yeah.
of like,
This is like the scene right before the night
yeah, to
arrives.
kind of like court him and to be like, hey, like, you're out next, basically. And,
Yeah.
and so when that happens, Garland felt, obligated to do this, to get his honor.
Yeah.
And so we strikes him down, and also in that scene, we get the first sense that the Green Knight could control people. He could like go into people's lives and basically have them, speak, right? Like, you know, with I don't know who the lady was that was there.
Oh, right. You mean like Arthur's wife.
Yeah, Arthur's wife.
Arthur's
Yeah,
wife,
Arthur's wife, the
who was
queen.
reading the note. Yeah.
Yeah, and
She
so
has a
that
name, a very famous
yeah.
name. I can't recall right now.
Oh my God, yeah, same. Oh Jesus. But um, so that was like the first, and to me that is a really important part of this movie that I think is brilliant, where they they introduce them that the Green Knight can like basically manipulate people
Uh-huh.
or mind control people basically, which
Yeah.
to me adds so much to one particular sequence in this
Yeah.
movie
I'm actually really
towards the end.
interested. I'm actually really interested once we get there for you to talk about that, because
Yeah.
like I didn't connect that as being important. So I'm really curious
Okay.
what you have
Yeah.
to say about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I mean, I can. Well, no, we'll get there.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah.
Take our
So
time.
basically, he accepts this. Cool. And so a year goes by, and we see that he didn't really. He was drinking all the time. He
Yeah,
was kind of
a year too quick.
a
Gone by
year too
too
quick.
quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that he just didn't really care about this,
Yeah.
obviously. And
Yeah.
so when he finally goes on this journey,
Well, I would not adapt edit.
or
I would
not
not say
care,
like
but
care. He's like, I think it's more that he's just really fucking scared and he
mm-hmm,
doesn't
mm-hmm,
think he's ready, is what it seems like
right,
to me.
right, yeah.
He doesn't feel, it doesn't look like he
But
feels like he's
he
worthy.
didn't feel motivated to maybe become worthy or anything like
Right.
that.
He just drank it away instead. He didn't
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
train, he didn't like practice, he
exactly.
just like drank.
Yeah, yeah, right. And when the time finally came, he sets off on his journey, and he has this girlfriend,
Yeah.
Alicia Vikander's character, who is one of the most interesting characters in this movie, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, how her role is kind of
Yeah.
uh just like is very important her character is very important to his journey.
Yes.
Um, and that scene was so before the when he's about to leave, they have this really interesting scene where she basically is like, I love you," and he's
Yeah.
kind of dejected. He's kind of
Yeah.
not really has the same feelings.
Yeah. Or
Um,
I again, that was a moment where I felt like it was him representing like his fear of commitment, his fear
oh,
of like,
probably, oh,
like,
yeah, same thing, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. He
But
wasn't
it's like,
feeling
cause
it. He
I
was
think
also
he,
scared to commit to something. And he was also
yeah,
going on to go on. He's basically, that's the weird part about this is because he accepted basically his death in a way. He didn't really know what was going to happen,
yeah. Well, like,
when he goes
because
there.
like, because the setup for the Green Knight was so brilliant, which I think this is also like a specific point that a lot of people might miss, because the Green Knight worded as saying like, you can strike me in any way and I will return the blow a year later. So
Right.
Garwin cut off his head assuming that he would just be dead and was like, what a stupid deal.
Yeah,
And he
right.
didn't expect the Green Knight to get up after he was decapitated
Right.
and still be
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah,
So
right,
now he's in
right.
this predicament where it's just like, I have to go for my honor,
Right.
but I know I'm gonna get my head chopped off by doing
Exactly.
this.
And that's playing throughout all the visions in
Yeah.
this movie of seeing people's heads cut off and basically
And
um
also I think there's like a recurring theme of like doubt and wanting to give up
yes,
because of that,
yes,
because he's just like, I want to live, let me just go home, let me just
yeah,
go
right.
home.
Exactly. Um and yeah, and then after when he goes on this journey, it starts to create this uh really this is the Kubrick thing that I was kind of talking about,
Right. Yeah.
where the rest of this film has this amazing dream like state that this movie
Yes.
kind of lives in that is incredible. It doesn't it it's so hard to do this because it is so dreamlike, but it's not like there's not like a moment where he like where it's not like there's a moment where it goes into like a surreal, okay, we're in a surreal space now.
Yeah.
Like we're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Yeah.
It blends. so seamless, and it adds to this just amazing atmosphere that you don't know what's real, you don't
Yeah.
know what is really going on,
Yeah, and I feel
what's
like
real, and that's the fantasy element of this, right?
yeah, and I think that's also like a really good point in terms of like I'm thinking back to typical or classic story structure, where it talks about like the first act, like the transition from act one to act two is like, and the call to adventure is switching from the world of comfort to the strange new world. And you
Yeah,
feel, and like
right,
what you just talked about is why this movie transitions so brilliantly, is that it doesn't, you don't necessarily hear someone say that like Luke, let's leave this place and go to this other place. It's not like that.
right,
It's that feeling of like we're in a different world now. We're
exactly.
not home anymore. We don't know where we are.
And yeah, and I think like the first like I was loving this movie, but the moment where like Dick was fully erect was the scene where he interacts with the kid from fucking Killing of the Sacred Deer.
Which is a
Every
great
time I
movie.
see that goddamn kid, I get like asshole puckers up where
I
I'm like,
know.
this
I
kid,
know. It's
not
like
cool.
he's danger.
Yeah, he's
Someone call the
dangerous.
police.
And so when he shows up, um, he basically, um, like, he tricks him into,
Yeah.
oh, the stream's that way, the chapel's that way, the dream chapel's that way. And, he just basically kidnapped, tied down, um, and so this is when, like, it got really hard.
I know
Um,
exactly what you're talking about. Let me
so,
also just say before you say this, at this moment that your dick was erect, my dick was also erect.
and so when these two steal his horse and leave his the axe. I don't know why they left the axe, but
Yeah.
okay.
No, they took the
Um,
axe. They did take the axe
how
because
did
the
he get
kid
out then? Oh, it was like
he used his sword that he
sword,
had.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, he left the sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, they took the axe, and so we get this amazing shot, and this is when I was just like, my mouth was dropped, I was hard, I was just like, okay, I'm in. Is when this movie he's tied up, and it's this one shot of it kind of rotating, and the and the foliage and everything starts gradually getting brighter and brighter green, and we see this image of Darwin tied up with his skull,
Yeah.
decomposing. And I thought that was an amazingly striking image, and it just goes back. And the way that shot is choreographed, and just the way it's just so mesmerizing. I've never
Yeah.
seen really anything like that
And
before.
I think the other thing that was brilliant about that is what you
Amazing
can,
editing, incredible
yeah,
editing,
because it's
amazing
one take,
seamless.
and when you see that shot of first, it's that low angle shot, like he's on the ground, like supine
Yeah,
on the ground tied up, and in this midst of this shot it changes from the reality of the situations he's in to him projecting to what's going to happen to him
exactly.
without him saying
And
anything.
then that shot is amazingly for shit, but there's there's this amazing um metaphor or kind of motif throughout this film of what the Green Knight kind of represents,
Uh-huh.
which is kind of there's this amazing monologue that Alicia Vikander has towards like the end of the guest sequence. I think
Like
it's
the beginning, like the last third of the
yeah,
movie.
that basically talks about what the color green represents and all these
Yeah,
different kind of
which is
colors
cool. Yeah, that
of
was
life
cool.
and decomposing and things like that. And there's this amazing motif throughout this film about that, basically about just how we live our life, where we're basically, I don't remember exactly what it is, but basically to the extent of like just the life cycle and just
Yeah.
how we just, you know, green always wins,
Yeah.
where our Earth just covers up. There's this amazing line where she basically talks about like, when the civilizations are gone, that's what happens. All this
Become green.
and
It'll become
it basically
green.
erases everything. Earth will win. It wins the battle every time, and he's
Yeah.
basically caught and that connecting to the Green Knight and kind of what.
Yeah, dude, that's a great connection because I didn't. That's so accurate to what that was, and I didn't make that connection specifically, but that is exactly what it is because it's him going through, and it's the setup of saying like, are you gonna give up now? But it's also more specifically like, are you ready? Nature's gonna take you eventually, but are you ready for it to take you now? And he said, no, I'm not. I want to go. I want out.
Right, exactly.
And he wasn't ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, dude, that actually like connects to the whole point because every moment is like him saying, "It's like, are you ready for nature to take you?" And he keeps saying, "I'm not ready. I'm not ready." But the ending is him saying, "I am ready for nature to take me." Which we'll talk more about that once we get there. But I just made that connection about how well connected and like this whole all really is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I get people who like that doesn't connect, and it's just, but I don't know. I don't know. I was peeing at the my urinal and after the movie, and I just had this epiphany. I was like, I got it. I got everything. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I kind of get it.
Yeah. The other, just a slight tidbit about like understanding things too, is that like movies like this, especially, it's like you don't understand it after you first see it. You watch it and then you let it like, you have to like just let it like replay in your mind and like absorb into you. And maybe like a lot of times when I first started out watching movies that weren't conventional, I had to watch it like a second time before I even liked it or like got it or something like that. So it's like I really have a lot of sympathy for these people. I do for people who don't understand. I so much sympathy.
Like, you're not weird. You're okay. Like,
yeah, we were the same. We were exactly the same. We've just watched more movies like this.
I mean, we're weirdos. We watch shows.
Yeah, for fun.
For fun. we're fun. And then, like, it even got harder in the second challenge, or challenge, I guess.
Yeah, really it is.
When he finds, and that can kind of remind me about this whole sequence, because I was just like in a trance during this whole sequence, so I don't really remember it. But too well. It's when he encounters that shack with the girl.
Yeah, the ghost Winifred.
The ghost girl. And that whole
that sequence is crazy.
Was incredible. It was amazing. Because that's the real first sense that you get that okay, things are not normal. Like things are, the axe shows up kind of randomly, you know?
Yeah.
Like that. Like, I don't remember. Do you remember that exact scene? I remember.
Yeah. So
amazing.
So like that scene was super weird, and it really was like the start, because the movie kind of bleeds into more of like a dream-like and more expressionistic scape as the movie progresses, and that was really the moment that it really kind of like began, like really started to pick up pace. So he shows up at the shack after escaping from his shackles from being bound, and he walks and he finds his shack. He's tired, he's cold, and he just finds a place to sleep that resembles society again. And he lays there, and he wakes up in the middle of this night, and there's this girl who scares the shit out of him. And he goes outside, and then she starts talking to him like, hey, I need my head, like I need you to get my head. He's like, what are you talking about? It's right there. It's just like, no, it's really not. Someone cut it off, and it's in this lake. I need you to get this head. And he's just like, oh, okay. Like, what are you gonna give me for it? And she's just like, I can't believe you asked me that. And he's at this precipice of this lake. And he's like, okay. And he just dives in. And there's this awesome sequence in the water where like the water turns red, and the lake gets so much deeper than what it seemed like from the surface. And he plunges in, and it's such a great experience of like, not totally surreal. It's like, it's still a lake. It's just exactly what that lake would feel like if you were in that situation. It's like, it's so evocative of like accurately representing that moment. And he grabs the skull from the bottom, he takes it up, and Winifred's gone. And he carries it back inside, and he sees the bed that he was sleeping on now has her skeleton. And then like a minute, it turns back into his head, scares the shit out of him.
Right.
It says
And
something.
yeah,
I don't really remember.
it's his severed head, right?
Right, yeah.
On the floor, right?
Yeah, she drops it and it's her head. It's her Winifred's head again, like, and it like talks at her for
Right.
for a second.
Right. And then that kind of stops, right? And then he looks behind him and then his axe is there, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, yeah, and it's like he replaces the head back on the body, brings Winifred back to completion, and she got the axe. Like, it's like, it's a moral test, and he passed and he gets a reward. He gets his one of his essential, which actually this is a great moment.
Is completely fantasy, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's that moment to me. Yeah, I'm glad that you're reminding me because I remember it now. But that scene to me was like, oh my god, this is what I want. Like, this is a real fantasy film. Like, this is not supposed to be taken like it just happened, man. You don't have to. It just fits the vibe of the movie so well. That real dreamlike vibe.
And it's like it's like the rules of kind of like the I don't. It's like it's so interesting how this film is structured around like a couple of really significant events and a couple really significant props too.
Right.
And the significant events are about retrieving the props.
Filmmaking 101, right?
Right. And it's super simple, but done in this way that's like really creative. So it's like we know the form. It's like, well, he needs that axe, he needs that girdle, he needs the green waistband that his mom gave him. Yeah. And we'll get there. Wow. And that's just what the movie is. So it's like it doesn't make sense how the axe got there, but he needed to get it and he earned it. It's like
right. Yeah. And then we meet the fox.
Best character.
Adorable.
That's like that's CGI, right? That's like awesome CGI. I think
so. It looks amazing. I don't know. I think it is CGI. It looks incredible.
I really like how instead of like
combination of the two.
Yeah, it looks sort of maybe motion capture.
Like a puppet.
Yeah.
Puppety.
That would be cool. I would like to look at the behind the scenes. But I like the way that they stylized the face, because it wasn't like hyper realistic fox. It was like the fox kind of looked like a person too. It was weird and it was really cool.
Yeah.
And it's like he did talk, so there's some kind of like consciousness up there.
This movie does this really fascinating thing. And it's funny that you said that. I don't know if you picked up on this, but so there's this really, when I started thinking about this afterwards, I got really like excited. So I was like, is this a connection? And I looked it up, and it is. In the original, there is a connection to this. The guest, Joel, or the host, sorry. Is the character's name, Joel Edgerton in the movie, when he got Big Castle.
Oh, like the huntsman host.
Yeah. He has a striking resemblance to the Green Knight. And and you're actually led to believe that was like, you're led to believe that in the original story that they are the same person.
Right, I looked that up. Yeah, they are like he turns into the Green Knight. Yeah, in the original story.
I was kind of guessing. I was like, they look very similar. Like, do you think that there's a connection to that? There was, and I was like, oh,
dude, that's crazy. I didn't think of that until after, like, once I read it. I was totally surprised by that. I didn't think that at all.
The beard was so.
That's so awesome that you made that connection.
It's a weird style beard, and I was like, that's gotta be like, they look so similar.
Yeah,
but I was like,
that's really cool.
Oh fuck! Like, I thought that was like a real thing.
Yeah,
but it's funny that you say that the fox looked like a human, kind of subconsciously, because I think there is a little bit of that going on in this, where there is this kind of odd underpinning of, like, things looking like, people are looking alike, or there's and it adds to the weird dreamlike state that Darwin is in throughout the majority of this movie.
And I think the other thing too that we can talk about, what that makes me think of, it's like when you go on a new experience or you meet new people, how you see people that in like new people that you meet. Like you see a new person, you're just like, you look like this friend, and their face kind of like morphs or gets like weird to you a little bit. And it's like, so like people who'd say it's just like, that's not realistic, it's not like it's weird, it's just like, well, it is also kind of how we experience things too.
Absolutely.
So it's like, I don't think it's fully fair to say that it's just like weird, unrealistic, like not based on any kind of reason, weird dream logic. It's like, it's based on experience. It's based on how we experience the world as humans.
True. Yeah. And then we have the fox who I kept thinking, there's a video game called Ghost of Tsushima that came out last year. And there's a great, an amazing thing in that game where it's an open world game. If you see a fox and you follow the fox, it leads you to a shrine.
Next destination. Oh yeah.
A point of, a collectible, basically, in the open world.
POI, a point of interest.
Was an absolute brilliant design, open world design.
Yeah.
And this, I just kept thinking of that because the fox is, leading him,
to his destination. Yeah.
Whatever. I thought that was great. Let's talk about the giant scene, which is an amazing scene. But I don't really know it's like all the other things, like I can have like some connection to like the larger story. The giant thing, I don't really. It was just cool to me.
Yeah.
It was just like this.
Well, what I loved about like how he presented that too is that like right before the giant scene, he just said like an interlude. It's like, we just take a moment to experience this, and it's like that's totally what it was. It's like it wasn't significant to anything. It was just like an interlude, just
part
like
of his journey.
Yeah, just part of his journey. It's like, because like it's like.
That's true. I forgot for the interlude. So
it's always
supposed to be.
I think I really don't think it's supposed to have any like thematic significance to like his journey or something. It was just like, holy fuck.
Right. Yeah, that feels amazing. It was incredible. It was so odd and bizarre and beautiful at the same time, which is kind of what this movie is. It's bizarre, it's beautiful, it's scary.
Yeah.
There's some like really like off-putting kind of scenes in this, like when the fox talks and kind of the whole host sequence. The huntsman host.
Yeah.
So that's when the movie goes full surreal, right?
It really gets batshit after that. Real batshit.
Like full. So who's in a low point? Who's basically. Is this after the fox, like, basically tells him off, where he's basically like, or no, that's right after he escapes the castle, right?
Right,
and then
yeah.
The fox is like, like whatever he says. The horse, his horse.
Yeah, I think also at this moment he had like, well, okay, here's a significant moment that I think may happen right after the giant scene or right before, which I'm kind of conflicted about. Because there's that scene when he's traveling with the fox and he's like at his low point that you're just discussing, like really fucking miserable, just wants to go home. And he finds these mushrooms and he pops one. And it's like that scene where he sees like
people who think that he's like hallucinating.
Right.
Or is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. I wanted to mention that.
Dude, that amazing scene where he sees
the Green Knight as the tree and like the thunderstorm.
As the lightning hits and stuff.
I
don't really. I think that's people taking it too literally. I don't think that he's tripping on shrooms or anything. Like
I'm with you on that too. And there's like that moment where his hand does that, like, the tripping thing, where his hand texture like gets all weird. But like I'm not like I'm fine with you taking that like.
I kind of take this as like the Green Knight is. I mean, I have a. Like, if you don't believe me, I kind of have a counter, but like the Green Knight is manipulating a lot of what he's seeing and a lot of what he's experiencing throughout this film.
And mushrooms are nature.
True. So it could be both, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I forgot about that. So it does allude to the fact that he is tripping, that he does see
Yeah.
what shrooms do to you. Not that
Well,
I would know.
but like my thing with that is that it's like I think it's fair to just say, oh, he's just tripping, but I think it's like it oversimplifies it too. I think
Yeah.
because it's
Well, I think
like
it's both. I think it's
right,
definitely like
because the experience, the sort of transformative experience of having a psychedelic trip is very similar to sort of the transformative
yeah.
experience of this story too. So it's like
His journey, yeah.
it's thematically accurate to the journey, but I think
Sure.
just saying it's just like it's just a crazy acid trip. It's just like this is not
Yeah.
like a Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas
Yeah,
type of
no,
thing.
no,
You know,
no.
it's like
Yeah.
we're having it's a different kind of vibe. It's
Yeah.
different than
That
that.
seems amazing though. We just
Yeah,
put fucking lightning and that was such a
I love that
striking
scene. I love that
image.
scene. Really simple too. Just a really
Oh
simple,
yeah.
striking moment. Yeah.
Oh, it's just visually just
Yeah.
amazing. That's what I love
So
about this is that it really does rely on amazing imagery to
yeah.
pull you in, which is
Yeah,
like
dude,
I
like yeah,
love shit
you
like
texted
that.
me about the landscapes, and
Yeah,
I love for me, I love shots. I love extreme close-ups and I love extreme long shots. And
yeah,
this
yeah,
movie was like a wet dream of
yeah,
that. It was
yeah.
so good. Like these awesome, like super like intricate, like stupid close-ups and
I
like these
wonder where they shot this.
amazing landscapes. I don't like where.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
wonder
know.
where they
I
shot
don't
it.
know. Like
It's
I don't know, maybe
amazing
like New Zealand or
landscape.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, go see like that, right? There's definitely
Yeah.
New Zealand stuff in this for sure. But
Like if Lord of the Rings was like put through like just kind of put through the garbage a little bit. Like it's just a
yeah,
little like
yeah.
gunky,
I wonder
like
where it looks
gunky
like.
Lord of the Rings.
I'll look it up. But so I do want to talk about because I got to leave soon, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
I do want to talk about the
Should we talk
first.
about like the castle scene and the
Yes.
ending kind
So
of
I want.
together?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And the castle scene to me was amazing.
Yeah.
And so you get this.
Which is
I
probably the
love
most
how
confusing point. That's where people probably got
absolutely
confused. Yeah.
100%. And because Alicia Vikander says that basically as the queen
Yeah.
almost, and he or like the whatever the mistress of this
Yeah.
castle,
Yeah.
and they have this really bizarre interaction where she is trying to sleep with him, but he's like she's like married, and he's
It's
like very
weird.
confused about it. It's
Yeah.
just a confusing moment. And then, so this is the thing that blew my mind when I started thinking about it. There's this old woman in the castle with this blindfold on, and there's a lot of shots to her. Uh, she doesn't say anything throughout this whole film, and it blew my mind when I realized that that's the Green Knight. Like it's
Yeah.
she is being manipulated by the Green Knight because every time that we see the Green Knight manipulate somebody, they have green eyes. Like they have these green,
Oh.
bright eyes.
Yeah.
And there is this. Why would there be this old woman who's just there with a
Yeah.
blindfold on, and she's the only one in the room after Alicia Vikander basically jerks him off, and
Yeah.
he wakes up, and she's the only one in the room.
Yeah.
And so, to me, might be wrong. I don't know you're supposed to ask this question, but to me, she was being manipulated by the Green Knight, and basically was creating this surreal experience that was just happening. I might be wrong. I don't know, but
Yeah.
we definitely have to. Who's the woman? Definitely have to ask that question because
Right. Right. That's really interesting. You want to turn on the lights?
yeah, yeah,
I have a
I can hear you. I
response.
can hear you.
Oh, okay. So like that's super interesting because I didn't make the connection of the Green Knight being a part of it, but I think that really fits because
Mm-hmm.
what I was thinking too was the connection between the old lady and the wife that was trying to seduce
Yeah,
Garwin.
right,
Was
right.
my interpretation was that was those were like either the same people or like the old woman was like projecting that image like of
Sure.
like
Yeah.
with through witchcraft or through the Green Knight, like it's another test that the Green Knight is putting him through. to try to like get the green girdle that's supposed to protect his livelihood, supposed to protect him from harm. But that's really that's really interesting. That adds a whole nother. I'm planning on going to see this again, so I'm going to kind of think about that too, about like the Green Knight being more present in each of these trials, and either like a representation of like himself, like testing him literally or something like that. So that's really interesting, because like I got the vibe that like it was pretty clear to me. I mean, things weren't literally what they seemed to be. There was something else kind of going on too, is what like that whole thing felt like. Because like the guy talked about too, which I love the setup that the huntsman was talking about, that castle was like, this is like not my castle, this is not a normal castle. It's just kind of a weird place where weird things happen. And he never really acknowledges the old woman who's there in the first place. She's just kind of like, she's just like something that just sort of like appears in the background to Garwin. A lot
of shots where he's just looking at her like, what the fuck is going on?
What are you? Who are you? Yeah.
Yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's
so that's
a really weird element to that whole sequence.
Yeah.
And then that when he when he wakes up and he just has tongue like all over his hand and the belt, but it was such a striking image. It was just like, I don't know, it just added just the image of like his, this thing that was supposed to protect him, like you said, just almost
impurity. Right.
It's just like it's really striking image. And then we get to the end, which I think is
well, should we before we talk on the end real briefly, just like the fact that the huntsman kiffs Garwin, I think that's probably like crazy confusing to people.
And I still don't really know what that meant or what the meaning behind that was, if there was one.
I know why that happened, because this is a combination of interpretation from the movie and going back to the original poem. So in the movie, the important scene I think you have to pay attention to is when they're by the fire, right before the wife has the awesome monologue about the meaning of green, is that he says, whatever you get here, you have to return to me. Whatever gifts you get, you have to give to me. And he's asked like, well, what could I possibly get that isn't yours? And he says like, you'd be surprised. So the whole point at the end is him trying to retrieve the hand job essentially that he got from his wife. That was the attempt, but he didn't get it from him successfully. But like in the original story, what it was is that the wife keeps seducing him, and that was like the setup. It's like, whatever you get here, you have to give back to me. And the wife keeps trying to seduce Garwin, and he's like, no, I can't fuck you, because then I have to fuck the huntsman. I don't want to fuck the huntsman. But instead, like, he keeps giving her kisses, so he keeps having to kiss the huntsman in the story too, repeatedly over time. So that's the story. And then it was like sort of re-represented, and I think it was in a geniusly like filmic interpretation of that, but I understand how it might be like overly confusing to some.
Yeah, sure. So the ending, I mean, it's just brilliant. It's brilliant.
It's brilliant.
I
agree.
That, so basically, he goes to the Green Knight, which when he arrives there, again, everything with the Green Knight
is so good.
Masterful.
It's so good.
It's amazing. It's like it's just so hypnotic and beautiful. And
they had to nail that character just right to not be cheesy. And man, did they? Did they?
And they walked a brilliant line, because the end of it, I mean, could have completely
not worked at all.
The last scene, the last shots of this movie are completely bizarre. And like you can be so confused and so like, because there is a tone shift at the end of it for sure. But so he basically we see him, long story short, he basically goes and is ready to
He presents his head. He presents his head to get chopped off.
And then he doesn't do it, and he runs away.
Yeah.
Runs away.
Yeah, he says, I'm not ready. He says, I'm not ready.
He runs away from
the Green Knight.
Right?
Yeah.
He runs away from his destiny. He runs away from what should have happened, basically. And then we get a sequence where we literally see his life as a kid.
Yeah.
And the failures that
a wordless montage. Yeah, wordless
montage of all these bad things happening to him. You know, he has a kid with Alicia Vikander, the kid gets stolen from her.
Yeah, and he marries a noblewoman instead. Yeah.
Right. A noblewoman, and his son gets murdered in battle.
Yeah.
And what else happened?
Well, he eventually, like the way that it kind of ends, I think pretty soon after that, he has a loveless marriage with the noblewoman. He becomes king, but he turns into like a pretty unrespected king, and eventually the castle is being attacked and torn down.
Yeah, so he was infiltrated this incredible image shot that, again, could confuse people, but I'm telling you guys, it's not, you're not supposed to do literally surreal. His head pops off and just cut off.
Well, the other significant factor about this is that he's been wearing the girdle that he retrieved, the cum girdle, right? The green girdle. And all of his family leaves him standing around the throne while the doors to the kingdom are about to be busted down and they're about to get overthrown. And he reaches into his jacket like he's pulling out his intestines, and he pulls off the green girdle, which his mom told him, and the woman, the huntsman's wife, told him that this will protect you against any harm. So he's wearing it fearfully to protect him from getting his head chopped off. That's the idea. He doesn't want to die. So he removes that. He removes his fear of death, and his head pops off. Yeah, because it's like, well, he got decapitated. He's been living a lie.
The moment where, like, I almost came is when that striking image of just his head just with window light and him sitting there headless, and we go back to him kneeling down in front of the Green Knight.
Yeah.
And he takes off his green thing and he goes, I'm ready.
Dude, I know. Oh my God.
And then when the Green Knight kneels down and he goes, basically says, you are ready, off with your head.
Yeah.
And the credits come, and it's just brilliant. And I could understand why someone would be incredibly confused. My sister was confused. Justin, I saw was very confused.
Yeah.
I was confused when it ended, right? But when I stood up and thought about it, I was like, holy shit, that's brilliant.
I don't know. It hit me perfectly. When I saw it, it was like, this is perfect. This is perfect.
It definitely, and what I love about it was there's so many things I love about it, because it wraps up this movie so well, of kind of like what this movie is about. But seeing if you were worthy or an honorable person. He ultimately decided in that moment that he saw his whole life as king, basically, and that he was not going to be a successful king. And he was not worthy of being king, or not an honorable man. So he was willing to, like being a knight, you are willing to sacrifice yourself for the greater good. Being honorable, that is what honor is. That's what's built on knightship. Like, be willing to sacrifice yourself. At that moment, he does. And I love that they use, like, the generic line of off with your head, as this last kind of moment in this movie.
Well, the other thing that's so great was the performance of the Green Knight at that moment, because it switched from being a really intimidating monster, is that he knelt down and he became a parent figure to him. He did the thing like King Arthur. He wiped the dirt off his face and he playfully like did this, which is just like, it was almost like he didn't mean it. It's like to me, I took it as like, you get to keep your head because you did it, so like, off with your head, like almost jovially. You know, it's like there was like so much meaning in that.
Yeah.
And I also just made the connection, which I don't know is accurate, but like the familial connection of doing the same thing that Arthur did, and Arthur being his mother's brother might, and the fact that his mother was the person who spawned the Green Knight might be that it was his mother controlling the Green Knight, pushing him to have like the discovery
also
too.
connect to her blindfold that she has
Right.
in the beginning.
Right. And
which, like, yeah, I never really thought of that, but that could 100% be true.
yeah,
But yeah, man.
unverifiable. But I agree with you. Like, of course, it's confusing, it's weird, it's abstract, but I just think it's perfect. I think it's perfect.
I mean, even the end, it's abstract, but I think it does make a lot of sense. I mean, when you
I
start
do
thinking
too.
about, you start thinking about just the montage and everything that led up to that point, and kind of, if you just think about all these different things that
It just
you saw
clicks.
during this journey, it just clicks.
It just clicks.
It just works. And,
Yeah.
and yeah, the tone shift at the end is pretty strange.
Yeah.
Where, it's he is all of a sudden, like you were saying, like being like this playful off with your head, it's just like so, and then the last like music and the title comes up that's like so like not in the style of like throughout the film,
Yeah, right.
It's so like so bold and such an interesting choice to end your movie like that.
Yeah.
And I thought it just worked brilliantly, and I think it just is such a unique movie. I think this is not that there's a lot, but this is definitely the best adaptation of any Arthur
100.
type story
I agree
I've ever seen.
1,000,000%. Yeah.
Not that there's a lot, but like I definitely think that this is an amazing
Yeah.
attempt at a medieval story, and doing it in a way that feels completely true to the original one, the
Yeah.
original medieval stories and vibe that those stories invoke. And I
Now,
just think it's brilliant.
I don't know if you realize this, and I'm guessing by the fact that you haven't mentioned it that you don't. I did not realize this, but there's a post-credit scene.
There's a post-credit scene. I did not know that.
I didn't stick around long enough
What's
because
the
I was like,
post-credit scene?
I didn't see it, dude. I don't know what it is. I have to go watch it again and see it. Like, I looked at what the synopsis was, but it was someone. Do you want me to tell you? I don't know if do you want me to tell you what I read? Because what I read, just like on Wikipedia, that it was like a girl picking up the crown. I have no idea what that means, but like King Arthur's crown. But so it's like, I'm not gonna I'm pushing it out of my mind. I'm pushing it out of my mind, and I'm just gonna go see the movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
But there's a post-credit scene.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hysterical. Yeah, this movie's fucking great, y'all.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things that, like, we were talking in Pig last time, that you have to shift through the stiff. And this is like,
there's some good movies in theaters, people.
Yeah. But like, this is why, this is for me what makes it worth to stick with going to the movies and sticking with like the movie form in general, is that you watch all this dumb shit for a while, and then you get something like this, which is just like, it's gonna last, man. Like you said it before, it's gonna last. It's gonna have an impact. It's great, And it's maybe not in a huge way, but in a small way, like for people like us, people who like A24. It's just like, it's part of that history, and I think that's awesome.
Well, this movie also has this like timeless aspect to it. Like there are movies that do stand the test of time, that do genuinely feel timeless.
Yeah.
And Kubrick is an example of that, where his movies just don't feel like they and a lot of movies do feel, even movies that I love that come out now, feel like they're made in, a certain time.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. But there's something about like the Lighthouses and the Green Knights and the Kubrick movies that literally feel like you don't know when the fuck they were made. You don't know really, like, it's timeless. It's just timeless. And you can tell, like, possibly with this, like, the way that it was shot, you're like, oh, it's definitely shot on digital, or film or whatever. It just definitely looks modern. but it's done in a way where I can see people 30 years from now still really appreciating this film for just what it is.
Dude, yeah, you're so right. You're so
And
right,
so,
man.
yeah, it's fucking great.
I think this deserved a very like quiet and thoughtful thick and butter approved.
Yeah,
Are
it's
you ready?
great. Second butter approved.
Thick,
Possibly. And I
thick
think
and butter
most people will
approved.
like it. I just think that you have to prepare yourself, knowing what you're gonna get,
Yeah,
and I think you're really gonna like it. I
yeah.
think most people will really like this movie.
Yeah, it's also a movie that we've talked. We like movies that we kind of have to like engage with it to like really get the full benefit of it. And
Yeah.
it's definitely something like that where you have to do your own work of engaging and
To me,
interpreting
like I
things.
also to that I think so, but I also would hope that this movie's so great that it just sinks its teeth into you and you don't
Yeah,
even really.
I mean that's
That's what
I
happened
didn't
with me, but
I had to work to put things together, but I didn't have to work to be entertained at all. Like I was
well, that's the
so
idea.
grabbed.
That's the
Yeah, I was
idea of it.
so grabbed
Because you're not
by
like
it.
I was trying to tell people, you're not supposed to. You're not stupid for not clicking when you first see it or
Yeah,
as you're watching it. Like that's
yeah,
not. It's presenting these things to you, and you're supposed to interpret. You can interpret this movie in a completely different way, and you're still right. Like I
yeah,
mean, this movie is open to interpretation in a lot of ways. But
yeah.
so
I mean, I think we forget, but like all movies are like that
all
too,
movies
you
are like
know?
that.
All
All movies
movies,
that aren't, like literal. If that makes any sense.
but even like
But
something like there's not a lot, it's not very interesting to come up with various interpretations of Avengers, but like you can
you
do it.
can,
There's no
yeah,
there's not a lot of
yeah.
motivation to, but there's no reason why you can't,
That's
you
very
know?
true.
It can
Yeah,
mean whatever you want it to mean. Like it could
right,
mean like be a hero. It could mean like being a tyrant is bad. It could
right.
mean that Thanos was misunderstood and corporate America is evil.
Yeah,
You could talk
exactly.
about
Yeah,
all this type.
right,
It can mean whatever the fuck you want,
right. Yeah.
And this one just kind of requires it of you to like
I
just
love that one.
decide
The
for
Thanos
yourself.
is misunderstood
Yeah.
because you're not wrong.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a whole conversation. That's like what makes Thanos so brilliant.
Yeah.
Is like his whole. If you remember, his whole thing was to wipe out planets because they're like becoming like poor. Like they're like, he wanted to create the ultimate utopia.
Yeah.
You know, for
Yeah.
for everybody to be happy and
Yeah.
wealthy, and but to do that, he had to get rid of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
How
he's
bad
not
is that?
wrong. It's pretty bad, but he's
Yeah.
not wrong.
Yeah.
We're overpopulated. We
Yeah.
got too many people.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it, but if half of us died, if like 4 billion people just like died,
Yeah.
it would be a better life because
Right.
it just would.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, that's what makes Thanos so kind of brilliant.
we could in our situation, we could kill like half a billion, like 3.4 billion people, and we'd have a better life because of resources and stuff. Or we could just kill Jeff Bezos and take all his
Oh
money
yeah,
and
kill all the
redistribute
rich
that
people.
everyone. Let's
Right,
just kill all of
exactly.
them,
All the
and
billionaires.
then we'll have a nice
True.
utopia and everyone gets to live, right?
Yeah, right.
We just make a hit list. We just make a hit list. We're taking all your money. Jeff
That's also
Bezos,
true.
Elon Musk, Trump, definitely Trump. Put him up first.
Yeah. Kanye.
Kanye. Yeah, you know what? We got Kanye. You've done great things. We got to
Dr.
go.
Dre.
Got to go. All these people, it's like you just have too much money. You have too much money. You're going on our hit list. You're going on there. Thick and butter murder hit list. Save America. Listen, we have a better plan than Thanos.
I don't sign off on this.
Yeah, well, unofficial kind of official. You know what I mean?
All right, everybody. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you so much.
101. Green light. Bye-bye.
Bye.